Hello everybody, and welcome back to All the Mods 9. In the previous episode, we built up our armor and tools in preparation to fight the End Dragon. After upgrading our armor with Apotheosis, we ventured out into the open world and found a stronghold. We went to the end and defeated the End Dragon and explored out in the End Islands a little bit more. And in between episodes, I did go ahead and upgrade a pair of Elytra. They just have unbreaking and mending on them. And yeah, we're now able to fly. So if we use our psionic jump ability like usual, and then we just spread our wings, we can begin to fly. Now, I thought I got rid of feather fall on this. Maybe there's a bug where it came back. I'm not too sure. But in any case, it doesn't matter too much because we can still fly our Elytra like usual. Yeah, it looks so beautiful up here, and it's very nice to actually be able to fly around now. You might have also noticed that my hearts look a little bit different. I did go through and upgrade my, let's see if we can find it, my hearts on my amulet. We now have 10 regular red heart canisters and 10 yellow heart canisters. Now, creating the yellow heart canisters really isn't too bad. It just requires a decent amount of gold, and we also need these miniature yellow hearts. We need the gold for the enchanted golden apples. They each take 8 gold blocks. It is a little bit gold consuming. To make these miniature yellow hearts, it's pretty easy. We just need melted yellow hearts, which can be crafted by combining 9 melted red hearts. Overall, a bit of a grindy process, but totally worth it in the end. And if we go ahead and look at our stat panel, which can be accessed via this little sword icon on your portrait, you can see that we have 132 health. So by default, we have 20. So we've increased it by 110, or about 50 hearts or so, which is absolutely insane. Also, in between episodes, I went through and sort of reorganized the inside of our starter base. So I got rid of the massive wall of storage drawers. I really thought that they looked ugly, so I just I put everything inside of discs, and you can see we now have we actually have 4 64K storage discs now. Again, these aren't too bad to craft, it's just a little bit grindy. I do need to make some more, but honestly right now we're only 31% full, and we have a ton of items. Let's see here. I also upgraded one of our emerald furnaces into a netherite furnace and gave it the speed augment, and this thing is absolutely crazy. Let's just throw a stack of oak logs in there and just see how fast this thing chews through it. It's so good. And it's already done. So yeah, I just have that automatically importing into our system as well. And we also have charcoal exporting into the furnace, basically so that it'll never run out as long as we have the tree farm up and running, and as long as we have charcoal here in this drawer. Also, I changed up the back of the house just a little bit. I made a nice little bedroom back here. These fancy beds are pretty easy to craft, and they look really, really nice. They're from the handcrafted mod. It looks pretty good. These little nightstands and some lamps. Then over here we have our enchanting setup. I have sort of a little alchemy table over here. And then our enchanting setup over here, which definitely needs some work eventually. I definitely want to get into the Apotheosis enchantments and getting absolutely insane with it. And the last thing that I did was I just made this area look a lot nicer. I do want it to feel like a beach, so we're using these tiki torches. I planted some more of these palm trees, and yeah, I even added a little garbage can out here just to keep the beaches clean. So what I want to do today is actually get started on an actual source of power generation. Up to this point, I've pretty much just been using the windmills that we got as quest rewards, and it's kind of limiting our system and our overall ability to make progress, especially when it comes to machines that require a ton of power. So what I'm going to be doing today is building a bigger reactor, or I guess it's called extreme reactors in this mod pack. And I know some people might expect me to use power, but honestly, I've never used it in the past and I'm not super familiar with it, so I'm not too sure about actually showcasing it here in this series. Eventually, I would like to get into it, but I'm gonna have to do more research on it first in order to actually showcase it properly and get a nice looking setup for it. So we're just going to be sticking with the extreme reactors, at least for now. But first, I need somewhere to place this reactor. So I think I'm going to build something right about where my head is right now. And yeah, we'll come back then. So I'm going to go ahead and get started on that. But first, why not leave a like and subscribe? It helps the channel out a ton and lets me know that you guys are enjoying the content so far. And if you want to go one step further, why not consider becoming a member? It's the best way to support me, and you get access to all my videos early. Today's question of the day is, if I were a worm, would you still love me? All right, let's jump back into the build. And I think that that's the build complete. So at least for now, I should say. This sort of side on this side, I'm still debating what I want to do exactly for it. So I'm still, I'm not going to detail it too much. At least right now, I think I want a path here or maybe another building over here. I'm not really sure yet. Talking about the build itself, I use light gray concrete for this. And I just used the Ars Nouveau randomizer to add a little bit of detail here and there. I also have these acacia log fences and leaves acting as like a little bit of overgrowth for the build. I want it to feel almost like it was abandoned at some point, and then I don't know, maybe my character came in and restarted the reactor, something like that. But yeah. I have sort of a second floor, almost. It's not really a second floor. It's just more of an area for light to come in. Let's go inside. Now, I do have a cool, like, little setup for the door. I'm just using Create to move these up and down. And I guess it didn't want to work there. There we go. So yeah, inside the build right now is extremely empty. We do have plans for in here, and I'll talk about that soon, but not quite yet. And we'll take a look at the outside of this in a bit. But basically, this is where we're going to put the reactor itself, filling in as much space in this area as we can. Probably starting off a little bit smaller to start with. We currently don't have a lot of like machines and stuff, and no real reason for having a ton of power at the current moment, but as time goes on, our need for power will definitely increase. And so yeah, just taking a look at the silo itself from the outside, I basically just used white concrete, did the exact same with the main base over here. We're using campfires and hay bales to act as like sort of the, I guess it's actually steam that comes out of a nuclear silo, but yeah, it works for now at least. We also have these like little buildings up top that don't really matter, they're just roof decor. So yeah, that's the build done. Now it's time to get started on building our reactor. So I kind of just want to start off figuring out exactly how large we actually want this to be, at least for starters here. I think I want it to be pretty wide, but not quite tall yet. If we make it wide to start with and then tall later on, we can actually expand it. So, I think 7 by 7 on the ground will give us enough room to still move around and have some things like interfacing with it and stuff. And I can't count the what I actually had was 9 this way. So this is what it'll look like. I want to have it a little bit off center, just so that when we walk into the room, we have a little bit of room, because we are going to need a few things here sort of for the input and the output. I'm pretty sure we're also going to be using ComputerCraft to actually manage it itself. Essentially, we can use ComputerCraft to monitor the input and output, and it'll automatically adjust depending on the program that we use. It'll automatically adjust all the parameters and make it as efficient as possible. And in terms of height, I think honestly 7 is just going to be fine as well. Make it a little bit of a cube, and that gives us room for another 7 up top. And obviously we can always go further down. So I'm going to start off with a basic reactor casing. Later on we can upgrade it to the reinforced version, which I believe increases the output. I'm not entirely sure, but yeah, for now, this is what we're going to do. So we just need sand, graphite bars, and iron ingots. And graphite bars are just made by smelting charcoal. Okay, I'm just placing the last few blocks for at least the outline. And here we are. So we want the floor as well as all of the edges filled in with the reactor casings. The walls can be either casings or glass. I'm just going with casings on the backs because we won't really see these sides, but I do want glass on the front. And this glass will probably end up being replaced, at least some of it, not all of it. First, we need to make a few more parts in order to get this reactor up and running. The most important of which is the reactor controller. This is basically the brains of the entire reactor. We'll also need a reactor solid access port. This allows us to put the fuel in and pull it out. Then we need a reactor active forge energy power tap. A little bit of a mouthful of a name, but basically this will allow us to pull energy out of the system. We'll also need a few of these reactor control rods. You know, I'm not actually sure what these are used for, but they sort of control the amount of uranium that's being used at any given time. And I think I'm gonna want 7 for now. And for each of the control rods, they need a rod to extend all the way down. So we need 1, 2, 3, 4. We're gonna need 5 per, so 7 times 5. So we'll need 35 in total, just like that. We'll also need blocks that fit in between the rods. And these are, I guess they're called moderators. Basically, they cool down the system, acting as a little bit of a heat sink. So we're going to want to find a material that we have a lot of, but that's sort of cheap and effective. So I think starting off, we're probably just going to want to go with graphite blocks because they're pretty cheap and we have a decent amount of charcoal, which can all be turned into these blocks. So if I did my math right, we're going to need 90 blocks because we have a 5 by 5 by 5 internal area minus the 35 control rods, and that should equal out to 90. And with that, I think we have everything that we need to finish building our basic reactor. So I'm going to start off by finding a good place for these fuel rods. The positioning does matter, however, it's like such a slight difference that it doesn't matter overall, at least for now. But I still want it to be at least a little bit efficient. And I probably calculated my thing wrong, so what I'm gonna do is just add one there and one on this side. And hopefully that'll stay pretty efficient. These ones, they won't have as many sides touching. Coolant blocks is the other ones, but I think that's all right. So now we'll just start filling this in with our graphite bars, or now we'll start filling this in with our graphite blocks. And actually, I'm gonna move one to the front just so that we have a little bit of a visual from the outside on like what we're currently working with. So from here, we just need to place our control rods. And just while we're sort of figuring out how we want everything to be configured, I'm going to place the energy port over here and the access port over there. The controller in the middle, and finishing it off with glass. Now, I did forget that I actually need some more of these reactor casings up top, so I'm going to go make those really quick. And placing in the last few blocks here, it should form, which it didn't. Awesome. All right, well, apparently I made it too big. So unfortunately, I'm going to have to do some reconfiguring here. I could have swore that these ones could be bigger, but I guess not. All right, so apparently the biggest reactor that you can make is a 5x5x5. So I've just gone ahead and scaled it down and yeah, rebuilt it here. So if we take a look at the reactor controller, we can see a few things here. Overall, this UI is a little bit confusing, but once you get the hang of it, it's really not too bad. So basically, this is how we monitor the statistics of the reactor, and this is also how we turn it on and off. You'll notice that there's no actual place for putting any items inside. This thing does require fuel, however, you have to use the solid access port. The only way to do that, I guess we can actually do that. We can just open it up. Most of the time, though, you're going to want some sort of system inputting items inside of it. So we'll just have a barrel here with a hopper. Eventually, I will hook this up to my refined storage system, but this is how we're going to do for now. So opening up the interface, you can see the core fuel status here. Currently, we have 66% full, so that's a stack. So it's probably like a stack and a half, a little less than, to actually fill this up. At least with the 5x5x5. Larger reactors can hold more inside, and this is actually completely dependent on your fuel rods. So if you look inside, we can see that we're only using 2 out of the 3 total rods. Now, obviously, there is still, I believe I have 5 inside right now. So it is filling 2/3 of the 15 or so fuel rods that I have inside. So let's go ahead and turn the reactor on. It's as simple as pressing the on button. And you'll see immediately it begins to heat up, as well as, so we have the core heat, as well as the casing heat. The casing is like the outside of the reactor, whereas the core heat is a mix of the heat of the fuel rods as well as the material that you're using to act as a bit of a heat sink. Now, you'll see that we are still producing energy here, but the internal energy buffer is completely full. So we will need some way of storing this energy. For now, though, I'm going to go ahead and turn the reactor off because we're producing way more energy than we actually need at the current moment, because we don't have any machines attached to it. Sort of the main machine mod that we're going to be using, at least for this playthrough at this current moment, is going to be Mechanism. Mechanism has a ton of useful machines, some that are capable of tripling ore production, some that can just smelt super fast, and there's absolutely a ton of utility for this. Now, we're going to want to start building towards the energy cubes, especially making our way up to the ultimate ones, and this is very far down the line, though. We will be able to make creative energy cubes, giving us an infinite amount of energy. Right now, though, what we're going to want to do is start working our way towards a basic energy cube. So we're going to need a few things. Mainly, we're going to need the metallurgic infuser. So taking a quick look at the recipe for this, this is extremely simple. This is one of the sort of starter machines for this mod, and this will allow us to energetically infuse metals. We'll also want to make some more basic universal cables, and for this we do need steel and redstone dust. We'll just see how many we can make. 56 might be enough for now. Let's see what the actual recipe for steel is. I don't think it's going to be possible at our current tech level. Yes, we'll also need a metallurgic infuser to make steel. So currently sort of out of reach, but this should do for now. Let's go and figure out a place for this. We're going to want things to be set up in this sort of main room. Probably a little bit further away from the reactor itself. So I'm thinking over on this side might do. And I want them, I think I'm going to keep them a little bit away. So probably at least a block away from the wall, just so that we have room for piping and hooking it up to our refined storage system. And by the way, we didn't really talk about this quite yet, but the Forge Energy Power Tap allows you to pull energy out from the reactor. Pretty obvious, pretty simple, so we don't need to talk too much about it, but that is what that is for. So we'll bring it up like that and place our metallurgic infuser right there. We can go ahead and cut that off as well. We'll probably want more machines in here as well, so we can just bring the energy across like that as we need it. So we're going to start off by making this infused alloy. Now this is made with redstone and iron ingots inside of the metallurgic infuser. So what the redstone is for is it kind of fills the metallurgic infuser like a tank. So it has 640 millibuckets, maybe. I'm not actually sure what the MB stands for, but it fills this little tank on the left side and we can put our iron inside and you can see that it is working. Now, if we check our power, yeah, we've used 8% so far, and that's just from filling up the metallurgic infuser. Eventually, though, we will need to turn it back on. I plan on using another mod to automate this. However, this mod does not allow for this other mod to actually control it quite yet, so we will have to upgrade it into the reinforced version, which is not too far off. I might end up doing that in between episodes. We'll have to see. So here we have it. We have the infused alloy. And looking at the quests for this, I actually should have made the heat generator first. It's pretty simple. I'm going to go and do that just so that we have our quests unlocked. So we're not accidentally wasting any machines or anything like that. And surprisingly enough, I'm completely out of iron right now, so I might have to go down to the mines really quick. So I guess this is probably a good time to actually talk about the iron sight potions. These potions can be made for pretty much any ore. When we're doing like all the modium later on, we will definitely be using these. Basically, it gives you almost like an X-ray vision of the ore that you are seeking. And it is really nice. So we go ahead and make the iron powder. And oops, we smelt that up. We can go ahead and pull that out. We do need to make potions out of this. Let's get some bottles. And these do need to be mundane potions. So I typically just use like sugar in order to turn them into mundane potions. Now we just combine that with some blaze powder and we get a charm of iron sight. Basically, this is a little bit of a toggleable potion. So let's go down, let's go to the cave. And as soon as we turn this on, you can see, okay, that's an iron vein right there. So essentially this lets you look through the walls almost, trying to find the ore that you're looking for. All right, that was a fun little side quest to make our heat generator that we're not even going to be using. But that is all right as we get some more quests unlocked. So let's claim that and the metallurgic infuser. And so now I basically want to make as many of the basic machines as I can right now and get them set up so that we can actually use mechanism to its fullest. And the first thing I'm making is actually a second metallurgic infuser, just because we need one that's capable of doing the redstone and iron, and one that's doing coal and iron. So essentially the second one will be used exclusively for making steel. And by the way, this process is pretty slow. So yeah, I'm gonna be here for a while. We can make upgrades. I don't think that we're at the point where we can really make those consistently though. But we can go ahead and claim our rewards for making steel. Technically making a wind generator, even though we kind of cheated and got that as a quest reward. and making our basic cables there, as well as apparently we got an advanced control circuit. That's pretty good. So really we needed the steel for making steel casings so that I can make this enrichment chamber. And the enrichment chamber is probably one of the most powerful machines from this mod, as it takes any sort of raw materials, sort of like our raw iron, raw lead, etc., and it gives us bonus 1. This is pretty good because we can already fortune all of our ores, giving us a ton, and then we are able to make even more out of that. So it's just a way to get a really large amount of ores for your for each individual ore. It's probably the best way to get more ingots out of your ore. All right, but I think that this episode has been running on for long enough. I think that that's where we're gonna call things for today. Thank you all so much for watching. I'll catch you next time. Peace.